Please welcome back Jon Huntsman.
Sorry about the brief delay. There's no way that I was going to come out on stage wearing a tie after Bear. And I had to tell him that he's largely responsible for our two sons who are out serving active duty in the Navy. One a fighter pilot and the other now deployed in the South China Sea, both doing dangerous stuff. And they watch this guy's program like every other night. I know, because I had to endure it too. Time after time after time is incredible. But Bear, it's what an honor to have him here. So I have the blessed duty of calling this to an end. And I just want to do so by offering some thanks more than anything else, because that's the most important thing we can do after a summit like this. Having reached kind of the altitude that we have, if you know what I mean, for a first of its kind, incredible. And this concept was just that a few months ago. And to see it come to fruition. So thanks, Science Bank. Thanks, World Trade Center, Utah, for the work that has gone into this. It's been absolutely incredible. So to Scott Anderson, we're grateful to you. Paul Burtis, we're grateful to you. Look forward to future leadership opportunities. From the World Trade Center, Jonathan Friedman, who has embraced the role as president and CEO with great enthusiasm. My co-chair, Natalie Gochner. Vice Chair, Lou Kramer, who's got to be the greatest board member in the history of the state of Utah. Phenomenal individual. And I just want to give a shout out to the board of the World Trade Center, the people who I have had the great fortune of working with over the last few years, a phenomenal group. I'd call you all out, but I don't want to embarrass you. And I want to give a special mention to a couple of past leaders from the organization as well. Because what we're experiencing here today really is the culmination of work, vision, dream, execute. And a lot of that goes right back to the work of Derek Miller, who ran this organization after Lou Kramer, and then most recently Miles Hansen, who is here with us today. So if you all feel pretty good about this, and I know I do, I think we need to make this like an annual gathering. So I'm here to tell you, I think, Scott, we're all up for this being an annual gathering. We'll get our heads together and figure out how best to program something going forward. And I'll have something to say in just a moment about our future leadership. But as we conclude this historic summit, let's kind of reflect on why this is relevant, why we stand up and do these things, and bring people in from far away and put on stage our great homegrown entrepreneurs and thinkers and business folks. Because Utah really has achieved recognition as Crossroads of the world. And I don't say that with any sense of hyperbole at all. So when I was growing up as a kid, driving from Los Angeles with my mom and dad to Fillmore, Millard County, we would drive into the state, and there were signs, Crossroads of the West. And we were so proud as seventh-generation Utahns to be part of the Crossroads of the West. That's what Utah was. We were all proud of it back then. And you fast forward history to where we sit today because of the work of so many in every corner of the state, in schools, in research laboratories, on entrepreneurial garage floors. We built ourselves into what we have today. And a lot of people say, well, growth, we don't like it. Well, you know what? Nothing you can do about growth. It's going to happen. And it's going to be particularly acute in successful locations. So, number one, I want everybody walking out of here remembering just a couple of things. The first would be, Utah as Crossroads of the world isn't just a slogan. It has become a reality. And we need to recognize our place not just in the West, not just in the country, but in the world, because it's recognized and it's noticed and it's relevant. Number two, growth is inevitable. Remember, as governor, all the complaints, why are you doing this, governor? Why are you doing all these kind of business growth things and doing sort of incubators for growth in different parts of the state? We have enough. Well, we need opportunity for the next generation. We need good jobs. We need the kind of lifestyle that will keep people here. But growth is inevitable, and I've come to learn this about growth. Either you shape it or it will shape you. And I've lived in too many places, both here and abroad, to see those who weren't smart enough to get out front and deal with growth from a practical economic policy, tax policy, education policy standpoint, they get gobbled up and they become irrelevant. And sadly, we see that in places right in our own neighborhood. So you either shape it or it will shape you. So let me just, for 2 minutes, elevate us to just a little higher altitude here, because I want to talk about a trend that is occurring in the world. And you can't live, as I have, in a place like China and Russia, or places like Taiwan and Singapore, and done trade negotiations for this great country of ours, without recognizing that there are some inexorable trends that are playing out in the world. Some are good, some are not so good. Putin wakes up every morning thinking about how he can cripple the United States. That's in his head. So his worldview is, I can take down America without even firing a shot. And I can do it through disinformation, through propaganda, through stand-up websites, on social media. So when we think after a mass shooting or a racial incident in this country that these are just terrible Americans saying terrible things, no, not always. It's Putin and his machine flooding the field with disinformation, hoping that he will psychologically tackle this country. That's number one. Why is he doing that? He's doing it because there's an overall secular trend in the world, and I would say that Russia and China are both part of this phenomenon, called overcoming national humiliation. It's a thing. So if we go back to the 1500s, what were the largest economies in the world? Not the United States, not the UK, India, China, almost neck and neck, just over $100 million GDP value in 1500. By 1700, China had overtaken India slightly, and they held that position straight until after the Civil War, when the United States came on strong. And the UK, of course, came on strong, and they took over after Amsterdam. And we have held this position for over 100 years, and the world doesn't like it. And so whether it's this secular trend of overcoming national humiliation, really speaking to the last century in Russia, which was a bloody one, and you can't sit down with Putin without him saying, I don't care what the United States says, we lost 70 million people in this country last century, and you're not going to move us 1 inch. Well, how many world leaders can you sit down and talk to who kind of wear their emotions on their sleeve like that? And then you go over to the other side of the world, to China, and they're saying, we can outrun the United States, not through the same tools that the Russians use, but through sheer economic competition. So their growth model is top-down, where ours is bottom-up, and they pick and choose very carefully the industries in which they compete. And I know, having stepped out recently as vice chairman of Ford Motor Company, I have seen what the Chinese are building, and I have seen what we're building, and I have seen what the Europeans are building, and they're 5 years ahead. Technology, design, execution, costs, quality, and it's not just in the all-important automobile sector, it's across the spectrum of manufacturing and technology. It's a real deal. And he thinks he can diminish the standing of the United States through sheer economic performance. He may be right. He is making the bet that they're going to return to the greatness of their past. And remember, it was only a couple hundred years ago that the Chinese economy was number one. And they'd held that position for centuries. So to the Chinese mind, in leadership in Zhongnanhai in Beijing, they're just returning to the natural order of things. So insert there in the United States. And here we are, free country, transparent, creative people. We all try to love one another, play by the rules. We're kind of ambling along. And I'm telling you that a successful model for economic growth, many of them do not exist in the world today, and certainly do not exist in the United States. We have an opportunity, getting back to why we're here. We have an opportunity collectively as a state, I don't care what your background is or what your party affiliation is, to come together through gatherings like this to overcome misunderstandings, to problem solve, to scheme about the future. And I'm here to tell you, and I believe this for a very, very long time, and I know many of you do too, we can and are creating the most enviable growth model in the world right here. And it's going to continue to play out, and it's going to be connected to the rest of the world, whether we like it or not, because the world has shrunk, even during this period of heightened nationalism and xenophobia. We're still connected, we always will be. You just can't disconnect the world. The rhetoric will sound like it is, but we're not, you can't disconnect. So gatherings like this become really important. And I'm just so proud of all of you for taking the time to endure, to participate, to evaluate and take on board a lot of the great wisdom that has been dispensed here today. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And I, for one, am in, and I think Scott would be in for doing this again a year from now. There's no reason why we can't. Why? Because we have become the crossroads of the world, straight up. And we either take that and run with it and build it into something special, stay ahead of the growth curve, which I know we can, or we kind of fall victim to lethargy and infighting and laziness. And that's just not an option. So this can all be part of it. It's the turbocharger for economic growth gatherings like this, and I'm just really, really excited about it. So finally, I just want to say that my time as chair of this organization is coming to an end, and which it should, because I believe in term limits in all things. People stay beyond their wanted duration, and they become pretty stale. So I'm rotating off, and I do it with great appreciation for all those who have worked so hard from the inception of the World Trade Center. Scott remembers, and so does some of the rest of you in this room, when we got together and imagined a World Trade Center here in Utah and what it could achieve. And it has done some remarkable things. And here we sit having pulled off this kind of gathering, which I'm just very, very proud of. So I want to take this moment to give you a glimpse of our future, because leadership is key. And as I rotate off, somebody's going to have to rotate on. And I'm proud, very, very proud, to be able to announce before we adjourn that Ambassador Jeff Flake will be taking over as chair of the World Trade Center, Utah. There we go. See, I told you it'd be a friendly audience, Jeff. So here we are. So the criteria were pretty simple. You had to be originally from the area, and you had to have at least 2 titles to your name. So in the case of Senator Representative Ambassador Flake, I think we meet that pretty well. I'm really excited that Jeff will be with us in time. He has some duties to finish out, and as soon as he's ready to make the transition, he and Cheryl will be here, and I have no doubt that by next year we will be at new heights. And I'm just so grateful, Jeff, for your willingness to step up and serve. And you will love it. You will love the team. You will love the organization and the issues about which we have been built around. So congratulations, my friend. I'm going to turn this podium over to Jeff, and then we're going to bring it to an end real fast because it's been a long day. So, Jeff, please. 。 . 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 .
。 . 。 。 . 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。
Jeff, please.
I already spoke. You've already heard. But I just want to say what an honor it is to be part of an incredible organization like this, as Ambassador announced, Governor and Ambassador, the title thing. In due time, when we wrap up our assignment in Turkey, but we expect that to be pretty soon, and I look forward to this immensely. And you've set the bar extremely high. It's difficult to come in with a huge conference like this and good feelings everywhere, but we're going to do our best to make it even better. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all from the Zions Bank World Trade Center Crossroads of the World first gathering in the history of the state of Utah. Sounds pretty cool. We'll see you next year. Thank you all very much. Travel home safely.